And the best thing that I think we could do as human beings is to align ourselves with the way things really are instead of pretending they were different.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Jeff Heilman Project. If you're watching on YouTube, we are both in our work clothes, and I have no makeup
Dirty.
on. I know.
I'm dirty.
I am rocking this is called a bubble ponytail. It actually has a name. It's a bubble. So for those of you who are listening, thanks for tuning in on Spotify and iTunes. It's a ponytail with multiple rubber bands in it, and it looks like a bubble. But the reason why, today's episode is going to be sweet and short and to the point, because we're going to use it to talk about each episode. We usually come together and we talk about, hey, how was your week? And then we get into the topic of the conversation.
No updates.
Today, our episode actually is our update and why but what we're talking about
your son is committed to publishing the podcast when every time you interrupt him and go into his room, he's working on it.
It's like, oh, there I am again. No. So we're talking about what we did this week, like as we do on every episode. And that's what we're going to be talking about during this episode. And what we did this week is what we've just got finished doing, which was removing the carpet. And we're going to tie this into Wabi-Sabi, but we are removing the carpet,
the Wabi-Sabi episode,
which has been keeping the 100-year-old floors concealed, because the 100-year-old floors would be considered by the naked eye as to be imperfect, as to not be presentable. And so
they're not even hardwood floors. They're just wood.
They're wood.
Floors.
They're wood
They're
floors.
probably pine. What are they, pine boards?
Yeah, pine boards.
Late 1890s.
Well, the house was made in 1906, so it's...
The boards were made before that.
Yeah, I mean, it's milled wood, and it's old, and it's not in very good condition. It's not polished. It's
not termites,
pretty.
though. I mean, it's
not termites.
solid.
There are holes. There are holes in the wood.
But those are the knot holes.
Yeah, the knot holes where over time the knot is no longer not a knot.
The donut hole is no longer
not a knot. But I thought it was just a really good kind of a visual representation, or some way that we could explain metaphorically Wabi-Sabi by saying this is something that's old. So why don't you tell us what you have learned about Wabi-Sabi in your reading, and inform us of what and why it's important.
Apparently, it's rooted in a philosophy of chill, with a foundation of Buddhism, and there was a guy who was the guy that invented it. Well, it had to do with tea ceremonies.
Yes, and how tea ceremonies have gotten super pompous.
Tea ceremonies had basically become super snobbish.
Yeah.
As oftentimes things of aesthetic beauty
gilded and porcelain and perfect.
And there was something about a guy who had to kill himself because the guy whose tea service he was having was offended because he used simple, less than perfect pottery. And so the Wabi-Sabi dude committed harikari. So harikari Wabi-Sabi. But there was another guy who was like an understudy of his, and I guess he had to flee so that he didn't have to kill himself. But there is an art form where people take gold leaf or gold powder, and when a piece of really nice high-end pottery is broken, unless it is shattered, if it's just cracked or a piece or two fall off, they'll actually do the work to go in and mend it. And you can watch videos of people doing this with some form of gold powder or gold leaf metal.
Well, they glue the whole thing. They take the vessel, and the vessel has broken, and it is in pieces that are mendable. Like, you can put it back together again. It's not like tempered where it's a zillion little pieces.
Yeah.
They glue that back together. But then, as we know, the glued pieces, when it comes back together, is no longer perfect. It is now
imperfect, but stronger
marred
at those joints.
It can be stronger at those points, and it can be, in most cases, something that was passed down from a generation, or grandma's pottery, or grandma's fountain.
That's right.
And then it gets put back together. But then what do you do with the creases? Now, Western civilization would
It's very
say
rigid. It's symmetrical.
would say
it's
throw it
perfection.
out. It was broken.
Yeah.
It's no longer perfect. It won't hold water.
That's
whatever.
right.
Just get rid of it. But what the Eastern philosophy, what the Zen philosophy, the Buddhist philosophy would be to take that and let's celebrate those imperfections. And so they glue it all back together, and then they'll take gold, and more often than not, they'll take gold leaf, and where each crack has been, they will put the gold on top of it, and then it becomes a new art form, and it actually is drawing attention to those
Drawing
places,
attention to and
those
being
places
proud
that
of
are,
and showcasing
yeah,
the imperfections which have been restored or repaired through craftsmanship and artistry.
yeah.
And it is so cool because that is what this podcast is about. Originally, this podcast has kind of gone through some transformation. Originally it was about bringing the humanities to entrepreneurship, and it was going to be about business, and we're going to interview business people, and it was all business. Is this working? That's not really what this is about at this point. This is more a craft. It's a conversation. It's a showcase of two married people who have a bunch of kids who are trying to get through life. And in doing so, we are breaking things. We broke our juxtaposition against the public school system by breaking homeschool back in 2003. And then we did homeschool through the computer, and that didn't work. Then we did homeschool through some correspondence courses, and that didn't really get what we wanted to do. Kids were bored to tears from that. Then we tried to do the bolt-on process of homeschooling as an example, where we actually enrolled our kids in the public school system version of homeschooling, and we met with the teacher once a month, and we're like, no.
Well, that actually worked
just
decent until high school, and then
it was
high
decent
school,
until
it
high
was
school,
like,
yeah.
no,
But Jeffrey
they
was
just-
checked out at like 12, 13.
Well,
And so
yeah.
the unschooling of our kids, which has become teaching them broken bits and pieces of history and math and science and creativity, art and drawing.
Well, even back to your original, which is why we have a mosaic in our logo. It was also a mosaic. You were talking about things that are being broken. I just don't think that
the
it
mosaic
came together
is the organization and structure
in
of
the understanding that, what we're doing is we're applying Wabi-Sabi. I love when you were reading about Wabi-Sabi and how you were reading about it, and I don't know if that was the Wikipedia on it or not, but you said that one of the practitioners of the concept of Wabi-Sabi, they were having somebody important, influential was coming over to the temple, and so one guy had cleaned the whole thing, and it was pristine, and everything was raked, and everything was all the sand and the pathways, and everything was trimmed and clean.
In the corner shakes the tree so
He
that
shook the tree so that some maple leaves would fall on, and then he's like, "Now it's perfect.
Now it's good.
Now it's good," because that's really what it is. Like we can't. Gosh, there's so much pressure and having to be perfect that I mean, every book that we've read on business and from the position of the entrepreneur is that you have to embrace failure. You got to go from failure to failure with undying enthusiasm. Like failure is the surest, as quick as you can get up from one failure to the next failure, you're gonna, you will be successful. And so avoiding failure because of this attention to this desire to want to be perfect is not what we are about. We are about making big messes. We've made more than most.
We're about getting excited.
Getting excited
about making things happen that people have never done before.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not that nobody has ever had 7 kids, but we don't know anybody that's had 7 kids. It's not that we were trying to break the rules with renting a house. A lot of people rent houses, but we rent the biggest, nicest house in the nicest neighborhood that we can possibly afford and could care less about the appreciation that we would be getting because we're reducing our burn, we're reducing our risk.
We were just talking the other day about how if you and I, when we go eventually buy a house and move out of this house, we hope that our kids can rent this house.
Yeah, I hope that I just keep leasing this house so my kids can live here because it's a great place to live. When we do buy a house, I'll still rent this place.
Exactly. No, we're always
such a killer spot.
But like just
we look at stuff and it's maybe we're broken. I don't know, but I look at stuff and I think this is broken. If it's perfect, if somebody's got it fine-tuned, finely polished, absolutely perfection, I'm like, it's not interesting to me at all. So this concept, and I'm going to have Andrew put the Wabi-Sabi Porsche.
Oh, that's
from the Peterson Museum. I'm gonna send a couple of pictures, and it's gonna be right there in your screen somewhere around there
at the Peterson Museum, which is really
Museum in Los Angeles, the Porsche
I think
exhibit.
That was probably for one, it was a fantastic vacation trip. I mean, it was a long weekend. We went to Hollywood. We got to go to Mosaic, the church that we go to in LA when we're there. We got to go to. I had bought us tickets to the Peterson Museum. We got to stay at the Roosevelt and see Marilyn Monroe's room, and it was just a really cool weekend. And within that really cool weekend at the Peterson Auto Museum, in the downstairs basement area as you're exiting the building, there's an art room, and there's all this awesome art about cars and from artists. But as one of the pieces of art was this Porsche, and it's a convertible, and it was a 356. What year? 60?
I would think probably late 50s, early
late
60s.
50s, early 60s Porsche, and it is just stunning. It has no paint on it. All of the paint has been peeled away, so it's got its metallic matte finish body. All of the upholstery was this like quilted Madras looking quilted fabric that
it had Recaro racing seats in it with Madras blue and white quilted shredded with Madras quilt fabric.
Embroidered
it was so sick.
Bonsai trees on the. I mean, it's just like if you look it up
and then linseed oil on the outside of the raw steel to keep it from
go to the link
rusting.
And look at this this vehicle because it's really. And then there's a little description on Wabi-Sabi, Wabisabi, Wabi-Sabi, and what it is, and the practice of like just embracing imperfections and how it gosh, when we were kids, like my grandparents mended everything. Like I mean, we just got done cleaning out their house after living in it for 65 years. They didn't throw anything away. And it's interesting though, because I inherited a lot of Grandpa's tools, and it's like some of these tools like he made. Like if he couldn't, find the right tool for a thing, you made the tool that you needed to mend the thing. You definitely didn't go buy a new thing. You made a tool. It probably costs more in parts to build the tool to fix the thing before you just replace the thing. But it's that mentality. And I loved what General Butow said at his service, at Grandpa's service about Grandpa. And he said that the Air Force had taught him resourcefulness. Like he was an outstanding airman because of his ability to be resourceful. And in his resourcefulness, he carried that into his civilian life, to taking care of his family. And I thought that was just a really beautiful thing that he had said that really resonated with me. It's about being resourceful.
Yeah.
And I think that when we can practice not getting all bent out of shape because Nessie doodled in your nice book, or the dog chewed up the corner of my nice quilt, or whatever, and recognize, well, this is an opportunity when I get to practice my Wabi-Sabi.
That's right.
And turn this into something instead of you son of a what a bleep, and just losing your stuff because, what is that? I think that's the whole point is what is. Like in the grand scheme of things, having a dent on our car or getting a scratch is not enough to warrant damaged relationship because your wife drove into a pole or because your daughter backed up and hit the mailbox. Like we can either take it to the auto shop and have it fixed, or we can
there's nothing wrong with having your automobile fixed. I had $20,000 worth of damage done to my car.
It's an opportunity.
And we fixed it, and it was perfect.
It's an opportunity for Wabi-Sabi.
Scraped it the next week.
I remember in Amway when we were taught that the size of a man is best determined by the size of
the things that make him mad.
Makes him mad.
Yeah.
And so if we could encourage you at all in these few minutes as we're introducing the concept of Wabi-Sabi, would be that...
Yeah, and I'm actually going to be launching... I've been trying to come up with a theme or a name for the newsletter that I'm going to do.
If you don't go with Wabi-Sabi, you could definitely still do MMOC. I mean, you could do Muscle Memory Chill because it's the same. It's all the same concept.
Yeah, having the ability to... I learned... I didn't make... You go into professional golf to try to make a living at it and try to make it work. And I did not make a living at it, and it did not work. I struggled. On my best days, I struggled to try to keep up, to try to keep off the bottom of the leaderboard for like 10 years. But I learned so much about what it takes to be successful from continuing to fail at golf for 10 years. The way that your mind gels like mother of pearl around the single grain of sand that is your golf swing or your putting stroke or your short game or
17.
Just keeping pace with learning how to get rhythm and tempo on a regular basis and to stick into this kind of sing-songy flow state.
That, by the way, is a reference to Vijay Singh.
Vijay Singh, yeah.
Who would, as he's going back in his backswing, would say 17.
He would say 17. That was the tempo he was trying to keep. 17.
Yeah.
17.
Yeah.
That's how he tried to do it. Another friend of mine, Matthias Gronberg, would his putting stroke would be 1-2. 1-2. And he would just sit down, he would get ready, and he would go 1-2. And if it's good, if it's bad, it doesn't matter. If it goes in, he just would stick to that rhythm of 1-2. When you do something that you love, and then you do it as a career, and you do it thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours working at this craft, it takes you to an entirely different place. And it's the best definition of Wabi-Sabi that I could imagine was the time that we spent when you're playing golf and you become this person who's capable of going out there and shooting lights out rounds, and you put yourself under pressure and things go wrong and you have to recover from it. That's life. Like those are the life lessons that have helped me to be successful in enterprise software sales and in consulting and in public speaking and content creation, because that's the way it really is. And the best thing that I think we could do as human beings is to align ourselves with the way things really are instead of pretending they were different.
Going back to what you were talking about as far as being able to take the pieces, take the golf game, take the hole. I mean, that's the reality, right? Like if you bogey a hole, that's a crack in your vessel. It's not perfect golf. Perfect golf would be par. Excellent golf would be birdie or eagle, but perfect golf would be par.
Perfect golf would be birdieing every hole.
Or birdieing every hole.
But that's so you can win golf tournaments playing even par.
Yeah.
You can win golf tournaments playing over par.
Yeah.
Because there's so many variables in golf, like weather.
Yeah.
Right? Pin placements, changes in temperature that impact the hydration levels of the green and how hard and how well the green holds approach shots. Yeah, there's been, I don't know what I think Francis Ouimet won the U.S. Open at 19 years old back in, I want to say 1905, 1902, somewhere in there.
That was such a good movie. Shia LaBeouf, you did good.
Shia LaBeouf did a great job. But he won, he was like 3 over par.
Yeah.
Right. But he played in monsoons in Boston.
Well, he played with what he had. And that's exactly what we're talking about with Wabi-Sabi, right? Like, I think that we've seen train wreck professional sports athletes who just time after time lose their cool. And as they lose their cool and they cannot work with the mistakes because they just end up, you don't ever hear from them again. Their attitude and their anger and their issues, if they don't get those taken under control and learn how to work with the trees and work with the out of bounds and work with the this and work with the that, then they cannot ever move forward. I remember you telling me about Tiger Woods and how Earl would, yell and he'd do distractions and he'd like totally
pennies in a Coke can, shake.
Yeah, try to get him
Annoying.
to lose focus and not be able to play through with what he had been given.
Yep.
And he's still one of the best golfers of all time
and
because
I have
of his
a friend of mine,
ability
Chris
to do
Doris,
that.
who's in the coach. He coaches professional golfers and collegiate athletes that play golf for college teams down in Phoenix. And I asked him, I'm like, all right, you don't know him, but you know people that know him really well. What is it about Tiger Woods? And it was the Green Beret training.
Yeah.
That Earl gave him to make him tough, to make him resilient, because that family's kind of broken, right?
Yeah.
That family's got some stuff that was difficult for Tiger to get through. But in that process, like you look at the person that he is today, his persona is even a lot more relaxed and calm because he's not playing really well. He's not winning, and there's something to this concept in my mind of embracing imperfection and looking for ways to draw attention to how somebody overcomes something and comes back from adversity.
Awesome.
So that's what we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. About a 20-25 minute shot for this week.
And we hope to encourage anyone that you're certainly no one is expecting you to be. We're not expecting you to be perfect.
You need to be perfect.
We're not expecting
Mary
you
Poppins,
to be perfect.
That's the standard. Yeah, practically perfect in every way.
Nobody's expecting you to be perfect, but we can be able to celebrate our imperfections and celebrate the things that we've overcome, because everybody has a story and a testimony that they've overcome and gone through, and with each crack becomes a more beautiful joinery of it coming back together, and can be, and that's our goal.
And I would ask people to put in the comments to this week, if you're working through something, if you've had a major failure, if you had something. Originally, this podcast was going to be called Hits and Misses with Jeff Heilman. That's the misses. And the hits, the hits being, sometimes we have success, and the misses, MISSES, are sometimes things don't go well. Golf is so precise, so hard. I don't know anybody that can say that they played a round of golf absolutely the way that they wanted to play it, because just human nature is imperfection. And so if you have comments or things in there that you've experienced or ideas that you want to express, please let us know. And thanks for being with us here on the Jeff Heilman Project.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for tuning in. Have an awesome week.
Have a great week. Thanks.
Bye.